Welcome to the Wealthy Author Summit. I'm your host, Mark Guberti, the podcast and virtual summit launch coach, bringing you expert sessions from top authors where we teach you how to write, publish, and launch profitable books that take your brand to the next level. And when it comes to a book launch, there are so many factors that go into a successful book launch. Something that looks like something just natural, like this person's just talking about their book, like, yay, I'm so excited my book's out. There is so much that happens behind the scenes. And if you've written a book, you definitely know that. But we have an expert who has done launches for some big names. We'll get into that really soon. But pretty much we're going to talk about how to do a successful book launch and some of the things that people miss in the prep work. So our expert who joins us today, she is an online digital marketing expert who supports authors, speakers, and coaches to establish a powerful integrated online presence that gets results and empowers them to make a difference in their industry. Since starting her company NGNG in 2007, she has spent her career impacting her community and building stronger strategic alliances with industry leaders and game changers across the web. She is the launch manager behind dozens of #1 best-selling books. You're going to know a few of these people. Mark Victor Hansen, Burchard, Bill Walsh, Joel Comm, Lisa Nichols, and Les Brown. So she's been the strategist. She's really led a lot of these book launches, has been that behind the scenes person. So our expert who joins us for this session is none other than Amber Vilhauer. Amber, it is a pleasure to have you on the summit.
Thanks, Mark. And honestly, I just am so grateful to you for all the work that you're putting into this summit, allowing us to serve authors. I love authors, so I'm really, really happy to be here today.
Well, Amber, it's definitely a pleasure to have you on the Wealthy Author Summit. And I'm excited to dive into this because, I mean, the people who I mentioned, like, they invest heavily in their book launches. Like, they're putting out, like, that signature book. So some self-published authors, like the way I publish books, I just publish a ton of them and run ads and things like that. But you've got other authors who want this one signature book to perform super well. So you put a lot of eggs in that one basket and some of them end up really well. So I'm wondering if you could share with us, first, let's start with the good. What are some of the best things that we should be doing with our launches to make sure our books sell well?
That's a great question. So yeah, every launch is going to be completely different. I've done like little micro launches on Amazon. You hit #1. Then I've done, big launches where I'm working with authors for like 14 months. So we're gunning for New York Times. And the approach is going to be different for each, of course. But I can tell you that there are a few staples, a few things that I have learned along the way that really move the needle for authors. And one is going to be the people that are helping you promote. That's probably like, if I had to have you focus on one area, it would be relationships, honestly. Because when somebody really believes in you, and then you get them to believe in your methodology, believe in your book, then they almost feel like they have a duty to help you get it out to the world. And so for me, one of the things that I do is I work with authors on how to develop personal connection with each person that they interact with without expectation of where it's going to go. But come time when you're ready to start promoting your launch, you can go back into your network and then start saying, book coming out, here's what it's about, why I believe in it so passionately. I would love your support in helping me get the message out, and then we'll kind of take it from there. But it's also having that gift for building relationships that will help you to then make a wish list of like, who would I like to connect with? And as long as you have significant enough runway, you'll have time to build and nurture relationships to then get to the point where you can ask them to support your launch and then still have plenty of time to get them the supporting materials so that they can launch with success. So I would say first and foremost, Mark, having like an army of brand ambassadors is a really important piece of this, because it's something that you can rely on more than other advertising strategies. But I would say two other faster ones. One would be I'd have a strong focus on doing podcast interviews, and I would also have a strong focus on doing live streaming.
Oh, okay. Live streaming, I definitely want to cover that a little more. But podcasting, I definitely relate to that. One of the reasons I do podcasting and virtual summits, I mean, I'm at a point where I could interview 100 people a month, and that's just so much relationship building. And it's really easy. I'm doing this from my home. Amber's doing this from her home. And I mean, it's just so easy to be able to interview people, create content, and build all these amazing relationships. And you don't know where a relationship's going to go. I mean, I promoted some people's books. They promoted some of my books, and that was not the origin of the relationship. It was more of like, you want to come on my show or summit. And that's how a lot of these relationships start. So I definitely resonate with that. And I could recommend podcasting and virtual summits for a very long time. But I'm wondering if you could talk more about the live streaming aspect, because like live streaming, like, you get, like, it's not like an interview format where you're interviewing and you're meeting someone in real time in a long conversation, but a live stream, you know, you could talk to your audience. So I'm wondering why you prioritize that as well.
Yeah, I've really been digging into live streaming a lot this year. And I've been doing a lot of testing and refining, improving and implementing and testing, and you just kind of keep going through it. But I will say that live streaming is a significant component of the launch for some major books that are launching next year that I'm working on. And I've done live streaming in many capacities. One would be if I get a member of my community coming on to a live stream with me and I'm doing like a hot seat. That's been a great opportunity for me to get a more engaged community, and also as a pipeline to sell more products and services for myself. I've done live streaming where I just come on and it's me and whomever is watching live, and maybe I'm sharing a personal success, or I'm celebrating something, or I'm doing a teaching. I've also done live streaming where I will invite members of my like higher influential community to come on, and I'll like interview them, and we'll share the space together as a way of giving them exposure into new markets. They're also cross promoting, so it's building my following as well. But really, it's just something fun that I do, sort of like podcasting, honestly. And so I've also done live streaming where I'm promoting somebody else's launch. I did that recently as well. So I've done it in all sorts of capacities, even into next year. One of my partners and I are going to be doing an hour a day live stream for 5 days, all about, author, book development, marketing, and launch strategies. And so then we're going to compile those and turn it into like a podcast series, almost like a Netflix series. And we'll just be having fun doing those from time to time. So there's all kinds of opportunities that you have in terms of live streaming. What I do is I go log into Zoom, whether it's myself or somebody else. And through Zoom, you can actually stream live through YouTube or Facebook. There are also tools out there. One is called Restream.io. And that's the tool that I use that allows me to go live with Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube all at the same time, which is really, really powerful.
Yeah.
And so once I'm live, then it's really, there are a few nuggets that I'm going to share with you that I've learned. One is that you've got to do pre-promotion. If you just flip on the camera right now and go live, you're going to get a very small percentage of people viewing you live. Whereas if you kind of do some pre-promotion, you make an event out of it, you're going to get a lot more people live. The vast majority of people will still watch the replay, whether you pre-promote it or not, and that's okay. Once you are live, the thing that I recommend for Facebook listeners is that right out of the gates, I ask people to start a watch party. There's a little button on the bottom right-hand corner of the video player on Facebook. And if the people watching click to start a watch party, what happens is it takes that video player where I'm streaming live and it embeds onto that person's profile. And now all of their friends are going to get notified that so-and-so is watching this, live stream. And that's a way that you can absolutely go viral. I did this I did a kind of interesting test a couple of months back. And we started out with, I don't even know how many live viewers. And I said, anybody who wants to start a watch party, let me know, just come back and do a comment below, which grew my comment stream, which opened it up to more people. I said, come back and leave me a comment telling me that you started a watch party. And at the end of this live stream, give somebody $100 gift card to Amazon. And boy, notification. All these people were starting watch parties. All of their friends were getting notified. And this went viral like quickly. And it was a really fun experiment that really taught me a lot about how your message could go viral. And so then you just want to make sure you're getting your community that is watching to comment as much as possible. You're just going to want to ask like quick questions. If you agree with that, say yes. Share your website below. Where are you coming in from? Things that are easy to comment with. And then always end with a call to action. Always then continue to promote your replay, those types of things. I would say that when it comes to a book launch, and I'll end here, we have authors that are doing a variety of different things. I've had authors that will say, I'm going to be live streaming from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. on launch day. And they just keep adding in members of their community to come in and share that time with them for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 30 minutes. So you can actually bring in your other author friends or other influencers to share the space with you. And you're almost doing like an extravaganza to promote and celebrate your launch. And then throughout the day, you're asking people that are coming and going and watching to start watch parties. And honestly, you could get a ton of viewership by doing these long form live streams and inviting other people to participate. I also have authors that are doing like a 5-day live stream challenge leading up daily, counting down until the actual launch of the book. So you're really building momentum. You're getting the community involved in the launch. You're doing some sort of a challenge. They're seeing transformation. There's all this stuff going on and watch parties. And it's just an event. It's exciting. And it leads to the where you launch your book and then everybody's promoting it and you're hitting #1 and you're thanking everybody. I mean, honestly, you're creating an experience out of live streaming. And that's the takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, really great stuff in the live streaming. I didn't think about the watch party. Like, I'm a very, I know live streaming, I could do a good live stream because I've done them in the past, but I could definitely like that. That's an area where like I need to develop that. So being able to hear what Amber said about live streaming is very valuable. And I was going to ask, like, do you like go individual on each one to provide a slightly more unique experience? But if you're doing that many live streams and you're doing them for that long, you definitely just want to get them out on all the social networks. So Restream.io definitely is a great resource. I've heard about it from other people. So we've talked about some of the things that are critical for a launch. We talked about live streaming. We talked about if you could interview people for a podcast. And we talked about building relationships. What would you say, though, are some of the things that a lot of authors miss on doing in the preparation process?
#1 is they don't give themselves enough time to launch. And that's for sure #1. I mean, I have authors coming to me saying like, okay, my book is ready and I want to launch in 30 days or even 2 months. Like, and really your launch window needs to come down to your goals. I've had people come to me that say, I want to sell 10,000 copies of my book at launch. I want to hit #1. I have 2,500 people on my email list that I haven't spoken to in 6 months. I basically stopped posting on social media a while ago, and I haven't really been networking with my relationships lately. And I have $2,000 that I can spend. And I'm thinking like, oh, and I want to launch in 45 days. And it's like, well, that's probably not going to happen. But then I've also had people have 6 months and my goal is to sell 500 copies. And I'm like, you need a bigger goal. So I think that a lot of authors just don't know what they don't know, Mark. And so the value of working with somebody who has the experience that can kind of have these conversations with you to figure out what's best for you. And then from there, we can not only lock down some good goals for you based on your platform, your budget, your team, where you're headed in your career. Like, do you want to do more speaking? Are you looking to do more corporate consulting or just more online coaching? All of these things can play into a launch strategy and plan, but the timeline is probably the #1 thing that authors don't take into better consideration. Second would be they don't spend enough time in the planning. And when it comes to planning, it's tricky too, because it can be really overwhelming. The first thing that authors do is they usually go to Google and they're like, how do I launch a book? And there's all these articles. They're like, here's the 1,001 things to launch your book. And so authors think they have to do 1,001 things to launch their book. And that's not true. You and I both know that. It's more about doing a few things really, really, really well. You're going to see much better success on a smaller budget and with a whole lot less stress too. So sometimes it's just about researching your options, which is why I'm so grateful for you in this summit, Mark, to help to clear up some of these questions that authors are going to be facing. And then just make sure you're giving yourself enough time to actually launch, because it takes time to build relationships and document a protocol for live stream and get featured on podcasts. And I would rather you extend that timeline and then set your book up for better long-term success instead of just doing a quick pop of a launch and then your book dies, which is what happens 9% of the time. And I try to educate authors so they know that there's an option beyond that to leverage your book and actually build a strong, successful company as a result of that book.
I mean, that's a really great insight, because some people, they just don't commit enough time to a launch based on their goals. There is just a frame of mind, though, where some people, they say, like, you publish a ton of books, like you're not going for like 10,000 book sales on launch day or whatever, but it's like you publish a ton of books. Some people say once a month, some people say once a quarter. And the idea behind it is that maybe each book makes a few hundred or maybe even a few $1,000s each month with Amazon ads and keywords and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on that kind of a strategy? Do you think people should just focus on having like a big launch, or have a series of smaller launches?
That's a really good question. I tend to focus on authors who have, signature books where they've really invested a lot of time and energy into a certain methodology that is going to be something that really can stand the test of time. That just tends to be the authors that I've attracted in, that I love doing my best work with. Of course, there are definite strategies for publishing lots of books and building momentum that way. There's no wrong path. That's the good news. It's just educating yourself on what the options are and then deciding what's best for you. Like for me, I know that I want to write a book. It's probably going to take me a year to write the book that I am in the middle of writing. And that's okay with me, because this is a really important methodology, and I'm going to spend at least a year just on the launch of that. And this is something that I want to sell thousands and thousands of copies every month ongoing. And sometimes for people that have like brochures, those books can be really great if you're trying to get your foot in the door somewhere. Like you're giving a lot of these books away for associations, you're donating them, you want to get more speaking gigs, and you just need something to say, I know what I'm talking about and I have experience. So it's a difference in approach. I don't have as much experience in books that are published a lot more frequently, so I would be nervous to speak to that too much.
That's a good point, because I mean, Amber's really found her niche. She knows how to take the signature book and really propel it. And, there are a lot of different ways. I think Amber really summarized it nicely. There is no wrong path.
No.
Now, one of the things I do want to mention is, like, you mentioned the ambassadors earlier. And for context, I was an ambassador for 2 of Damon John's book launches. I'm wearing Rise and Grind right now. That's the shirt based on what Damon, that was his book. I bring that up because I know that for the ambassadors for like a really big scale book launch, like, someone's writing their signature book, it's not like you go from nobody to like an army of ambassadors like a week before a launch, which is why I can understand Amber saying, like, 45 days isn't enough for a book that wants to have that kind of impact. So how do you keep the ambassadors interested from the moment you make first point of contact and still keep them interested and they promote the book?
I am finding, Mark, I'm so glad you asked that. That is the number one challenge that influencers have. Number one, by far. And it's something that every day I'm working on organizing, creating a structure around it. Because I do it really well. And I think that I sort of take it for granted, and I have for many years. And the more that I work with, big name people, like, they are meeting people at such a rapid rate that they don't have the bandwidth to keep up with relationships. And so you could meet the greatest contact of all time. But if you're not nurturing that relationship and staying intentional about staying in contact, it will die on the vine. And then they will forget about you most likely. So one of the things that I would say is, one of my approaches is I really focus on how I make people feel, which may be a shock as an answer, but when I meet somebody, if I can get them to feel a certain way, I want people to feel seen and heard and loved and valued really quickly right off of the bat. So one of the things that I have intentionally honed as a gift is how to create personal connection very rapidly. Because then if I don't have the ability to stay in constant contact with that person, I could come back a year later and they would still remember me because they remember feeling something different as a result of our conversation. And so my way of doing that is I focus on elevating every experience. And this is actually the book that I'm writing, How to Develop Personal Connection to Scale Your Influence. And in my mind, for somebody who doesn't really know how to build relationships, whomever you're talking to, if you just remember, elevate the experience, elevate the experience. What does that mean? Well, I'm here to serve you. This isn't about me and what I look like and anything about that. I just want to make Mark smile. What do I need to do to make Mark smile right now? And take a genuine interest and be curious and get to know him. When that happens, usually the other person is like, something different about that one. And it strikes an impression. And so I really honestly believe that that's how it needs to start, Mark. But then after that, there's one thing that I can recommend as a tool. There's an app called Cloze, Cloze. An app that allows you to import automatically all of your contacts from Gmail and social media, and you can categorize your contacts, and the system itself can remind you to follow up with certain tagged people. So like if I wanted to tag the Damon Johns of the world as like, my highest level influencer, and I want to remember to follow up with them monthly, the app will remind me because I'm too busy to remember to do it myself. And when you get busy, you lose sense of time, right? So there are tools like that can help you stay connected. Otherwise, you have to be intentional about it and then make sure you're having that striking first impression.
I mean, any kind of tool like Cloze that can make it a little easier. I mean, that's definitely a good resource because, me personally, I've done somewhere around 700, 800 interviews. Is a stat I would bring up often. But it's like, how do I interact with that many people and continue keeping those relationships? And then the people within my own tribe, other than the people I interview. So, just having any kind of like CRM just makes it a lot easier to keep in touch.
Yes. And I will add one more thing. I actually developed protocols in place. I have these procedures that I have my team do where they are subscribing to the email list of the influencers that I want to intentionally stay connected with. And once a week, they will look through all of the emails because I can't be subscribed to that much stuff. They will look through the emails and alert me if there's anything noteworthy happening inside of that person's organization, like a launch, or I'm pregnant, or I just got married. They'll let me know. I will also have them follow influencers as me on social media, but they can support me and reminding me to engage with them. So there are things that you can do internally in your organization to get help with that. But I make sure that I am still engaging and communicating with people. Like I would never have my team do a comment for me, probably. Like that's something I should be doing, but they can alert me to pay attention to certain things as well.
Amber, that is such a smart strategy. I've never heard of that strategy, but it is such a great strategy.
Because I made it up, man. Only my clients know about that one. And now the gift to everybody here. Happy to share it.
Thank you for sharing that strategy with us and all of your other really awesome insights throughout our time together. For people wondering how can we follow you on your journey, what's a good resource of yours that you want to lead us to?
Yeah, I actually have this 30-minute training that I did. And so I would love to just give that to you as a value add. So my website is ambervilhauer.com. That's an easy way for you guys to stay connected with me. Just ask me whatever questions you have about your book. I love authors and I'm happy to support you guys any way that I can.
Well, we'll definitely include that as a link below this session. But once again, Amber, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Wealthy Author Summit. It was a pleasure having you here today.
Thank you, Mark.